Hey guys, this is Mrs. Hopkins, and today our big goal is to find missing sides using trigonometry. Have you guys ever seen those guys in the middle of a road or like in a field, and they might have this tripod, it's almost like this little camera-looking thing they're looking into? That guy is called a surveyor, and his big idea is he figures out land boundaries or heights of objects for building types of projects. And he uses trigonometry to find missing sides of these triangles, heights, and things like that. And that's what you're going to be able to do today. So given a right triangle and a side and an angle, you're going to be able to find a missing side for that triangle. And like I said, the big idea, it helps us find the height of hard to measure objects. So let's get started. So look at the picture number 1. What are we trying to find? We notice the X is on the outside, so we're trying to find a side for this right triangle. What do we know? We know we have a 36-degree angle. We have the hypotenuse, because it's opposite the right angle. And we're trying to find the opposite, because we know it's the side not connected to that 36 degrees. So let's then figure out, what do we know? We know we have a 36-degree angle. We don't know the opposite, but we do know the hypotenuse. So we have opposite over hypotenuse. And we know that for a certain angle, that the ratio for opposite over hypotenuse is a certain value. And the way we can figure out what that is, we call it the sine. So what we're really saying is the sine of this 36 will equal something divided by 8. Well, here's the secret. We know what the sine of 36 is. It's a fixed value. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in our calculator, type in 36 and then press the sine button. And when we do, we get 0.5877. Now I'm going to round it to the second decimal place, so the 7 is going to make the 8 become a 9. So I'm going to replace the sine of 36 as 0.59. That's its value. So is equal to x over 8. So something divided by 8 has to equal 0.59. Now I'm going to write this as a fraction because I want to, and I can. Anything divided by 1 is itself. So how can I figure out the x divided by 8, what will get me 0.59? Well, what gets rid of division? Because that's really what's happening here. You're right, multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 0.59. So this becomes 8 times 0.59, which is a squiggly line, 4.70. And that's your answer. All right, so go ahead and try this one right here. What are you trying to find? A side. What do you know? Well, we have a 10-degree angle. We notice that the x is opposite the 10, and the 3 is the adjacent side. So what ratio is opposite over adjacent? Well, that's the tangent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do 10 tangent is 0.176. The 6 will make the 7 become an 8, so 0.18 equals x over 3. So how now do I get rid of division? You're going to multiply. So this becomes 3 times 0.18. So x equals 0.54 is that missing side there. Alright, so let's try this one now. What do you know? Well, we have an angle, which is 19 degrees. The x is opposite the 90, so that's the hypotenuse. And we have the 4 is next to the 19, so that's adjacent. So what is adjacent over hypotenuse? Ah, that's the cosine. So the 4 goes on top and the x goes on the bottom. So 19 cosine is 0.945, which will round that to 0.95, equals 4 over x. Okay, so how to get rid of division? What? The x is on the bottom? So what do we do now? Well, essentially we're going to do the same thing. Let's multiply. I'm actually going to cross multiply here. X times the 0.95 equals 1 times 4. Now, how do I get rid of that multiplication now? You're going to have to divide both sides by 0.95. So x equals 4 divided by 0.95, which is 4.21, and that's your final answer. So in practicality, what's happening here is when x is on the top, you multiply the decimal times your side. When it's on the bottom, you end up dividing the side by that decimal, by the value for the trig function. Okay, let's just do one more to practice this just so we can, get our teeth into this idea. Okay, I'm going to give you a few seconds to have you guys figure out which trig ratio to use. Yep, tangent. The tangent of 60 equals 3 is the opposite and x is the adjacent. So we define 60 tangent at 1.73 equals 3 over x. So I put the 1 down because I can kind of think of this as two fractions, which means you can cross multiply. So x times 1.73 equals 3 times 1, which is just 3. So how do you get rid of multiplication now? You divide. So 3 divided by 1.73 is actually 1.73, and there's your final answer.